Alright guys, this one's about the xDai stake token. I just wanted to do a quick video on it and why I put a very small amount into this project. What I did is I put a small amount into Uniswap and of stake ETH pair on Uniswap because I do think that this project has some promise. However, I'm going to go over its major drawbacks and why I only put a small amount in this project. And then I will do an in-depth analysis if they solve these problems with this project. So basically, if you know chemistry, you know something called activation energy, but we're not going to go into that complex. What activation energy is though, is when you have a chemical over here and it has a reaction with another chemical, it's in one state and it goes to a more stable state, a more desirable condition. But there's something called activation energy, where you need energy to go into the system to get to the more stable state. So that's what we're seeing with xDai. We're seeing this hump of energy that is needed for you to move from Ethereum into the xDai system. And this energy is a major inhibitor for adoption. Because even though this is a more desirable state to get on xDai, because it's super cheap to do HoneySwap exchange transactions, it is more desirable because the fees are like non-existent. You still have this a big amount of energy that you have to put in order to get to the more stable state. And the reason for this is it's several steps. And from my knowledge, even if a project is better, it doesn't matter. This is enough to stop a project from succeeding even at all. I've seen things like EOS. EOS is a feeless structure where if you use EOS, you'll be amazed at what it can do and what kind of projects are happening on EOS. But there's not a lot of people in the EOS ecosystem. And this is the reason why, because they haven't solved this activation energy problem. It's a several step problem to move from Ethereum to xDai. It's expensive to move from Ethereum to xDai, and there's liquidity issues on the other side. Now, I will say that if you see some pairs being traded, like its amount of stake and its volume is 1-to-1, that's actually more of an incentive to move to that project. But there's not many projects like that on xDai. A lot of them have very low liquidity and volume. So even though this is a more desirable state, there's not a big honeypot for you to move over there quite yet. So there will be no adoption if these things stay the same. I'm saying it as it is. It will not happen. People will not move into xDai if this activation energy stays as high as it is, being that it's several steps, it's expensive, and the liquidity issues on the other side. Now, to move out of the xDai system, it's easy. There's no energy to leave because the xDai, it's extremely cheap to do transactions in xDai. So to move out, you've already done the steps, so you know what to do. It's super cheap, and there's always more liquidity on ETH, and there's more happening in the Ethereum system. So that's like if someone's got to take this pool of people to the other side, they got to do all this energy to get there. But then there's this port that makes it easy for the group to flow back in, and you can think of the community as a pool of water. You know, you can think of and you want to be in the bigger pool. You know, so if someone brings people over, it's still so much easy for it to just flow right back, and so this community just stays big in the Ethereum ecosystem. And another problem is its own success impedes its further adoption. So you have, xDai has 1.2 million people or volume, or not volume, liquidity in its HoneySwap exchange. But if it does end up happening that people go through the rigorous steps and the expensiveness to get into the system, Ethereum fees go up exponentially towards the end of the adoption curve of Ethereum being adopted. So if xDai was to capture something like 10%, it reduces Ethereum's fees, diminishing the desire to leave Ethereum. So it will. So this is another factor that will stop people from adopting the xDai project. However, that being said, I did put a small amount. I just put it into Uniswap. I put in stake ETH pair, very small amount, because the stake token has some pretty good token economics, and because it's recommended by top developers such as Vitalik and the Aave founder, the ETHLend founder, CEO. They're both talking about the project as a good solution. So I put a very small amount. However, I don't see any adoption happening unless they take care of this solution. If you have this project on your radar, the one thing you're going to look for is what do they do to make it easier for people to transfer in to their system. If they make it super easy, if they add it to MetaMask, in my opinion, if they make a partnership with MetaMask, then you want to put a decent amount of money in xDai. That's pretty much the only thing I could see at this point. Like, they have to make a deal with MetaMask, and they have to put a little button that you just click one little button and you're automatically there, and it's cheap. And I could see that it could be very, very, like, I could also see this project being used by Aave, and other projects adopting it. So, I did put a little amount, but that's the overview in analysis, the bottom line of this project. And once again, if they do solve this activation energy problem, then I will do an in-depth analysis, and I will, and then I would definitely suggest probably getting a bigger position in this project.